Hello and welcome everybody to Women Matters. I'm Heidi Hornlein from the wisdomfactory.net, and we are doing a lot of shows, but this is especially conversations among women. And we are doing this we meet monthly, sometimes with different people, and today we are 4 of us, and maybe other 2 will come. So is how did we meet the challenges and pursue our intention in that past year? We met 9, 10 times. This is the 11th time. So we started out with stating our intentions. Who knows what they were? I hope you remember them. And now we want to see align with them. Did we go there? But first of all, I would ask our participants to present themselves, say a little bit where they are from and what specifically they are expecting from our meetings. Okay, shall we start with the latest comer, which would be Anna K.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm living in West Yorkshire in UK. Happy to be part of this little group, but I've only been here once before, so not quite sure yet how to relate to what is going on. That'll do for me, I think.
Okay, who else?
Well, I'm Gertraud from Gießen, that is north of Frankfurt in Germany. And I think we started that group in 2016 already, wasn't it?
It was before. It was 2015 in summer we started it. Oh,
okay.
Oh, no.
16 in summer, yeah. Out of another conference. And I'm very happy to be here and to meet again. And this is like you're so busy in life and doing this and that. And this is reflection time with people we only meet here. And I really love to do that. Yeah. Not to be task oriented, but to, reflection oriented. And who knows what what will emerge out of this.
Okay. I am Monia from Vienna in Austria. And I joined this group in May. Found it quite fascinating. At that time, the topic was intelligence, swarm intelligence, And first of all, I use this to practice my English. Otherwise, I may forget it. So I'm always grateful to speak English again. And secondly, it has become more and more important for me to talk among women. I watched on television the programs of our state church, the Catholic Church, and there were just men, very happy men, but somehow I felt they didn't represent me. So whenever I talk to women, I feel invigorated. I feel in contact with my intuition. I feel I'm challenged, and I'm very grateful for being in this group. I never know what will come out when we start it, but we always have a topic, and then we end up with a theory of everything. And what else can you do when you live your life fully? You always have all the threads, and you connect them, and you just, women do that, just knit them together. So I'm looking forward to this evening, and yeah, and thank you, Heidi, for making it possible.
Yeah, thank you too. You see, Tammy is coming. Good morning there in the far Pacific time.
Yes,
yeah,
good morning.
This being together with women is very important, but not, you know, not just with everybody. We are sort of avant-garde sort of women who are open-minded, and we are listening to each other. We don't come with ideologies and want to other one for I don't know why, but we are discussing openly the topics. And my personal intention is to inspire people who are listening to us, or to do the same thing, talk publicly with other women who otherwise they wouldn't talk to because they are too far away, or to join a group already existing, even ours, when it's the right surrounding. So the invitation to become active, because we need feminine energy, healthy feminine energy, to counterbalance busyness, which is going on at the moment. So, hello, Tammy, would you like to present yourself?
Good morning. So nice to see everyone. Yes, I'll just tap onto the crazy world for a moment. Yeah, I feel like we're at a bit of an end point of the shall we call it the patriarchy? The way that we are in the world needs to be balanced by the wholeness of who we are. And I think that the feminine and the way of holding space for the wholeness of both our situation as well as how we can respond to it is really important. And for myself, I feel like there's a lot of common sense things that we can discuss and shed light on that can really help us to be more whole as we look at some of the global challenges that we face, as well as just the regular challenges that we face as human beings in this crazy time of challenge and transformation. And I think we've got it. I think that we can meet the challenges that we face with common sense, kindness, and better understand what we can do through having very grounded conversations with our peers. And I think part of what's missing for me is having public conversations like we might have around the kitchen table or in a coffee shop, so that what we're actually talking about can be heard and can be explored.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we are doing here, no? And we were, in the past year, we were exploring many more specific things also, what the feminine energies are, the feminine qualities, and what they can contribute to create a better world. And it's not only to feel well to talk with women, but it's also to explore what we can do. Today, the question is, we are looking back on this year. We won't meet this year again. Oh, by the way, thank you for both of you, Gertraud and Tammy, who were the founding members of this group with me, and there was Monica, other Monica was there, and we have lost her along the way, but you have stayed here for 1.5 years, and this is amazing. It's really hooray for us, and hooray for the other ones who came. Still Luna missing, but then we are almost the momentary group of people. So,
and Bettina as well.
Bettina, yeah, she didn't show up anymore for quite a long time. So,
Tammy, you just, what you said touched something in me, because I opened a magazine this afternoon, and there were three men sitting on steps, actors, and they were bemoaning the end of the world, the end of Götterdämmerung, actually, like Wagner. So it's the end, everything going down the drain, and it's just the end of patriarchy. So this is, I'm glad you finally, we have to put that to the point. It's not the end of the world. And it's, we have a new 30-year-old chancellor in Austria, and he is pushing it very hard, and he is just amazing to watch and a delight. So he's very clear-headed, and he doesn't fall for all these traps all other politicians try. And yeah, the world isn't ending. It's just patriarchy. Yeah. Yeah,
so
I could almost gloat. Sorry to say.
What do we mean by patriarchy? That would be a good thing to talk about. What do you mean by patriarchy?
Me again, or no? Let somebody else talk.
But you brought it up. No, Tammy brought it up. So let's first.
But it's the how the powers are instituted, how the powers are, the hierarchy of powers. And I don't want to mention the Me Too hysteria almost, but it's also it's about power. Who is wielding power? And women have a different kind of wielding power than men do, in my opinion.
And I'd love to also invite Anna to weigh in on this. Well, everyone, of course, but certainly Anna. For me, the patriarchy is a holdover from not ancient ways of being, but old, very old ways of being, and it's for me, it's not a whole system. It is exactly as you say, Monia. It is. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought, and I'm so sorry, but it's such a nut. It's like, so it's embedded in everything that we do, and the way that all power works, but it's not whole. It's simply taking without recognizing that there's a whole system that you're taking from. So for me, part of that is the way that the corporation works in the world. The corporation seems to me to be the pinnacle of what has been designed and developed and created in terms of our economic system to be able to legally disempower human beings. So in fact, what the patriarchy looks like now is has migrated power to non-human entities rather than human beings, even in an effort to control and, I'm just going to say, steal, take, without recognizing the health of the whole system. And so we're in a state right now, I see, where the resources are being extracted so quickly all over the planet within a legal system that supports such a thing, and it's literally killing us. and we're not recognizing we're not recognizing broadly as a public conversation that this is the underlying fundamental thing that we're doing that is affecting life all over the planet. And so, you know, this taking is a huge part for me of what the patriarchy is. You know, here in so-called Canada, the you know, European people came and took, and that's not just here in Canada, but also in the States. And for me, that's one of the fundamentals. It's like, you know, we've gone, we've colonized, we have suppressed and taken from the first peoples of this land, and it's all under the patriarchy and under these ways of it comes back to stealing. To me, it's taking that which isn't yours under a legal system that supports it. And I think that kind of in that place is some of what we really have to look at and tell a different story about, tell the truth about. That's me.
Anna, if you want to speak, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Yes, Tammy, I think you put your finger on it when you said it really affects every part of our life on this planet, really. Where do we begin? And I think that that's part of the difficulty, is that it's so embedded in us, this patriarchy, in the way that we've grown up, that it's very difficult to even imagine a different sort of power structure. Like Monia said, it is the power structure, but it's much more than just the power structure. It's the language that we speak is embedded in, patriarchy is embedded in the language that we speak. Even in the grammar, in the way that we have nouns and verbs, the way that we talk. I can't actually give you the details of that, but it feels that if we're going to try to see where patriarchy is and try and get rid of it, in a way, that's going to be the wrong way about it. What we need to do is come from our own hearts. And the thing that gets left out of patriarchy is that caring about people. So if instead of to get rid of patriarchy, if we just come from that wholeness that Tammy is talking about, from that wholeness inside, that place inside, and try and relate with more wholeness to, in the way that comes quite naturally to women, to care for people because of the sort of way that we relate to the world, to nature, and so on. I think it's not difficult for us to feel that caring. And yeah, that's what we need to provide. That bit that's missing.
Anna, I'm a translator. And one of the first things I noticed is that our language, our German language and also the English language, is based on war. So we use the terminology of war. Even when we talk about positive things like the edge of evolution, it's the front, which is a war term. It's they use like spears in German. It's the spear, the point of the spear. It's not with a ship that you have the wave in front of you, die Bugwelle. You have die Speerspitze. So, and this is particularly in German, there are so many ways of thinking like World War II or maybe even World War I. And to me, this is the result of patriarchy. And of course, women are carrying that as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. That yeah, I think that's so fluently we talk war talk. This is right, and even my name is a war name. My name is Gertraud. That is the spear, the old German spear. Ger. And Traud is the one who knows how to use the spear.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Very old German name. German. The spearman.
But you are a woman, so this would be interesting how it ended up to be a woman's name. Do you know that?
There were some powerful women like Kriemhild or Brunhild or so. Hild is Herrscherin, is what do you call it in English? Like empress, or not with a crown, but someone who has power. Yeah.
The ruler?
Pardon?
The ruler, the one who rules everybody else?
Yeah. Who has the say in a specific realm?
Who has the power? Mm.
So, what I'm thinking of is going back to what Tammy said about wholeness. This is not whole. So if you just take one part of the whole and declare it as the ruling power, then you miss the point. So matriarchy, well, you know what I mean. Matriarchy is, in the end, if it's only the power of women, it doesn't, it might serve more caring and maybe less war, but it doesn't, it's not the whole. So if we can bring it all together, so to see what's working, what's good in the female and in the male aspect of life, and to bring that together in the intention to heal the world, to make the world a place for everyone, including sentient beings. Then, yeah, I think this aspect to look for what's whole. Frederic Laloux, who wrote the book Reinventing Organizations, he has a slideshow, and when he's talking about the whole, he has this picture of a whole person, and then we we eliminate the unconscious, we eliminate the female part, we eliminate the feeling part. So he said the people that come to work at the end come into work with a 16th of what's possible. And I think that is the important part. And another thing that comes to my mind is talking about Ken Wilber and the lines of development. So what I learned is that the end of one phase, one level, that there is kind of like the system is fighting back. So what has been over the centuries the leading power and the leading way of looking at things is almost the same as the earth was flat until somebody came and said, oh no, it's not, and they punished him until, so the whole system fought back till this became the new normal and the new way of looking at things. And at the moment, when I look at the tax cut law in the US, for example, it's like the system is fighting back. And in the systemic therapy, they say, when you want to have change and the others don't, like in a family or so, you just, you first have to double your, because they want you to stay in line. They want you to stay where you are because that was working for them. And then after you came across that big hurdle, then the system adjusts, and it's a lot easier than you thought before it happened. So, or another saying, when the night is the darkest, the day is the nearest. So there is something that wants to hold what's normal, what's even like a blood pressure. So you have all the enzymes and hormones that say, oh no, you have to keep it a certain way. And then to overcome that. And so I think sometimes when I think, oh God, what's happening, I think of this and say, oh, okay, we are almost, so we are uphill at the moment. And after that, we will have a better time altogether because the others adjust as well. But now the hard time.
I find it very interesting what you say, because I'm quoting also Ken Wilber. He says, the heroes, not the heroes, the pioneers are those who have the arrows in the back. And somebody has to be first going for the change, and really hard until it can be nearer than we thought, you know. Who knows? Like when East Germany fell, nobody thought three weeks before that it would happen. You know, we were already ready to accept the second German state, and then poof. But many had worked before. It's not, you know, overnight that something happens. Many people have to work for it. I hope with our conversations we do a little bit for that.
So some of what I'm hearing is around power, right? Like there's a core shift that needs to happen in the way that power manifests in the world, and that's really interesting for us to put our fingers on really directly and consider, because I believe that, and you know, how do we share power? I think that some of what we're learning here in terms of just this small example of conversation is how do we share power in these small ways to be able to model something different. And I feel like it's also important in this conversation, yes, we are all women, and each human being has the masculine and the feminine within them. And to touch on the topic that Monia didn't want to touch on, but brought up, the Me Too piece, this is kind of showing some of the deep imbalance. It's very dark to look at, and obviously is important to look at. And the women coming forward with the stories, I think that's incredible and inspiring and difficult. And it points to a really long, hard story about how things have been, and is just shows us that power has been unbalanced for a very long time. But the ways that we share power, for example, in these conversations is like, okay, well, I'm taking the power right now in speaking, and all of you are holding that space to be able to, and listening. And I think that the action of listening is one of the most powerful actions that we can take. And it's unseen. However, it's critical. If you don't have someone listening, your information doesn't go anywhere. What you have to share is not received. And so, again, it's this sort of whole system approach in the micro that I think can help us to feel our way forward. Because, you know, as Anna was saying, it's through, and Monia and Gertraud, it's throughout all of our language. We can't even see. We have these lenses and blinders around how healthy social interaction should be, because we have the weight of the way it has been behind us. So this pioneering that you're talking about, Heidi, we are doing that here in listening, in maybe not necessarily knowing what is next to be said, but showing up present to channel that through, to be able to know when to stop speaking and pass the baton. And that's my cue. I'm going to do that.
I'm wondering if we could share. Sharing is also important, not just listening. If we could share what kind of power each of us is wielding in her private life, in her public life. What do you think about that?
I would like to go into this power thing too, because we don't really know what we are talking about. Because so far it comes up that all the power have men, but women had power too. And it was much more hidden power and sometimes mischievous power, because the traditional unhealthy feminine power is, you know, I make you, you know, I'm very much, and then when you touch me, oh no. So just as a little response to the Me Too thing, I would like that their part in the story, and not only excuse men. And in the public discussion, I don't see that. It's all about the bad man, and I don't think so. My personal conviction. I know, for instance, when I did my exam in university, I was accused that I was too much flirty, you know. So I obviously, in unconscious or consciously, I don't know anymore, it's a long time ago, I tried to use this power because there were men on the other side. So I think we should be much, much, much more sincere and truthful about what we are doing before we accuse others.
So what kind of power, I won't get away from that topic. What kind of power, Heidi, do you wield consciously?
Consciously, my power, I think, is my abilities, which I finally appreciate and try to bring it into the world. And then I have also some negative ways of power, I know that, and sometimes they come through, but I at least sort of know it. And I can afterwards say, excuse me, when, for instance, in relationship also. So that's somebody, you know, because I have an agenda. And who has not an agenda? Everybody has an agenda. But for me, it's my power is in knowing many of my psychological structures, let's say, and let's say, or at least if somebody tells me, I can say, oh, okay, I will think about it. I think that's my power.
Anna? Gertraud? Spear holder, what is your power?
Not only holding, knowing how to use it. Well, one of my powers is this one, the book we wrote, and that's one of my achievements from what we started with. This is, yeah, to bring to what we did in the workplace with other people, and this was always one-to-one and or in a group or so, and add together in words that make a difference, and really looking what words make a difference, what questions make a difference, and not just using the default language, but yeah, being powerful with language to empower people and make a difference where there is somebody on the receiving end, like and one other power I think I use frequently, or that's what's brought me here, is to make lemon out of a lemonade out of the lemons I got. So to use pretty difficult lifetimes and have a good look, as Heidi said, at what happened to me, but also how I supported it in sometimes, and how I was the one who misused whatever that was, my power, and to find ways, maybe I say it like very frankly, to be a better human being today than I might have been at some other times, or at least to use that, what happened to me, not to stay in blaming, and to overcome it, and yeah, become more powerful. And talking about the Me Too, this is something that affects me really on several levels. And I get from those discussions, for me, it's very interesting to see when that Senate race came up, and why didn't they say anything? And all of a sudden, something when I was 14 came up, and the misuse of somebody who was supposed to take care of the kids in a camp. And this is very, very delicate to see where the line is, because I was flattered at that time, and somehow, and at the same time lost all my friends around me. So it was kind of a very mixed bag. and I could see why you don't talk about it. So I think giving up my power at that time was crucial to not talking. So if I had talked with others, if I had shared my story, if somebody would have dealt with, that would have been a lot easier than 40 years later. So, and for me, that discussion is very interesting because there is a black-white thing when we talk about Weinstein, or, I mean, where really something even illegal happened. But there's so many gray zones, what you were talking about, Heidi. And I think it's very important that we first come out with the stories that really didn't work, and then become more and more the 50 Shades of Grey to see what, how we contributed, or and not to blame the ones that were really victims. So because with 14, you're not that conscious, flirty girl. You think you are. Yeah. So I stop here. Have a
All right, who is sharing her power next? Anna?
You are muted.
Am I still muted now? Okay.
It's okay.
Yes, so well, it's a bit difficult to follow after what Gertraud has just spoken about, because that is a very personal example of something. This discussion about power, I mean, first of all, I'm not sure what Monia is wanting us to say. Something about what power we feel we want to exert. I guess it really all depends what you're using your power for. I don't see anything wrong with power, not even men's power. It's just what they are using it for, which is completely destructive. So I'm happy that men should be powerful. I'm happy that women should be powerful. I think there is power in everything that we do if we want to see it that way. What talking about, trying to sum up, you know, whether can you say at 14 you are sort of abdicating your power, or whether there is blame? That seems, you know, blame is another one of these patriarchal values. That whole judgment, to me, comes from patriarchy. I mean, that was the beginning, the Adam and Eve story of how evil came into the world. So the whole contrast between right and wrong is something that came with patriarchal religion. How can we begin to get rid of these judgments that we make? And become whole beings. Heidi, I see you. Not sure whether...
No, I don't think that it came into existence with the religions. I think it was, we knew from very early times on what is right and wrong, but not so much in moral terms, which I think you are referring to, but in what is useful and what is not useful. It is right to run away when the tiger comes, you know, and it's wrong to wait for him to come. So judgment, we need judgment, but not necessarily moral judgment given by whoever it is. You know, the instances who gave the categories which is right and wrong, they're changing. I mean, in Hitler times, there were certain things right and wrong, and in our times now, it's this right and wrong. And in times of the church, when they were in their main power, there were other things right and wrong. So this is changing, but we have an innate feeling of what is right and what is wrong. You know, when you do something and you know you shouldn't have done that because it's somehow violating your integrity. This is a different thing. It's not that somebody else has told me you shouldn't do that or so, but you feel it. As Gertraud felt that something was not right probably in those times. I had a similar experience. I knew perfectly that it was not right. You know, and what you do, I have often done things to other people which some voice in myself knew that it was not right. But it's not because the church said it or somebody else said it, but it's just, I think, humanity knows what is right and wrong when we listen, and we come back to the thing of listening. When we just follow external rules, right, and this is wrong, no.
But the thing that follows this right and wrong judgment is to do with shame. You know, that there's something wrong with me, that I made a wrong judgment. That's very different from... So there's right and wrong in terms of mistakes, but in terms of feeling when you do something that is wrong, that seems to me that came when religions that way, when Eve became the one who offered the apple to Adam, and when women were then seen as somehow inferior to men. And from that time, it seems to me we learn it very young. As children, you're told, you know, that was wrong. And there's definitely a feeling about it of guilt and shame. And that seems to me that has come through patriarchy, through the whole power structure, which is very different from the partnership between parents and between parents and children that can exist.
So I'm going to jump in, if it's okay. And what I was feeling when you were speaking, Anna, in a sense, was that blame is a bit of a poison pill. Like, we internalize it, then we become silenced, and there's, you know, and not taking power and responsibility away, but just in terms of how our social structures work and our kind of agreements in a way that we live in that are invisible, that silencing through that inner feeling of blame is a big one. And it is a hangover of the patriarchy. And then transitioning into the pieces around power, what I'm really experiencing, I have a lot of power actually in my life. You know, I live in a community home where I've been for 11 years. And so I watch my power in terms of that. And And my hope and my goal is to have this shared power, but it takes a lot of training and figuring out how to actually share that in a way that allows people to bring the parts that they want to bring, and where the very grounded stuff that needs to happen can also happen. And I'll also liken it to some of the work with the Global Challenges collaboration in, you know, that it's a space. There's a group of us that came together that wrote a proposal at the end of September to collaborate towards solving global challenges. Now, obviously, that's a big thing if you just conceptualize that. But it's also, you know, one of the things that I feel that we're unlearning as a group is how is this power hierarchy. And partly because I've been one of the initiators, I hold power. So I'm watching this thing of me holding power and wanting to do it differently, but not necessarily having a map to follow. It really is that pioneering work that Heidi kind of touched on earlier. How do we allow the leader to emerge from the group and then get subsumed back into the group for the next leader to arise? And it's this, and I think in there is what I'm really learning in terms of how to balance power in group work, is to use our sensing, use our feminine, our sensing abilities to be able to know when to take the lead, and also that humility of when to leave the stage or the next action for the next person who may have more abilities, capability, capacity to do that. And so, you know, there's and for me, it's about how do we hold space for a collective intelligence to arise. This is what I'm really excited about, because if we can find ways to be able to support each other, lift each other up, take the courage to take the lead when that's our moment to do so, and not take ourselves so seriously to think that I am the one with the power, and you know, have these kind of more dominating relationships with people, because that's not the way. I deeply have the sense that as we learn to share power together, we're doing a deep service to ourselves and the planet to demonstrate different ways of being that are part of this transformation that we're experiencing, and that we need to experience to be able to make a transition to a better world, different ways of knowing and being, something more balanced.
We had, I had a workshop, a webinar with a colleague of mine, Nora, about decision making. And one of our slides was an iceberg. She found it somewhere. And the iceberg says that what we see, so the management or so, knows about 4% of what's going on to solve the problem. And then you go deeper and deeper, and people on different levels know different things for themselves, maybe also not so much, but as a whole, 100%. So if you just take the upper levels and the ones you see over the top, you miss the point. So reporting is like a chain conversation or a chain story where a lot gets lost. And to find a good way, including all the knowledge that we need to solve the problem, like healing the world or whatever, small or big that might be, but for me, this picture was so, I mean, telling. Can't go right if you just give 4% of the people all the power to make decisions. So yeah, I think it's time to realize that we have 3 brains, that the most part of the iceberg is underneath the water, and things like that. And I would like to have, because I see at we're almost at the top of the hour, that we might, in a closing round or so, that we say what Heidi came up with in the first place. What we said at the end of the year, or whenever we came in.
How did we meet the challenges and pursue our intentions in 2017?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we can include that when we have to wrap up.
Good. Who wants to start?
I can go. I feel like I did a bit of leap and the net will appear this year. And I have just really invested in people and communities that inspire me. And I've made tons of mistakes, which is great because that's the fast track to learning. And I've also, I've created a lot of media with people. And I'm learning how to hold space and to articulate how I feel we can help each other to transition to the better world, the better ways of knowing and being together. And that's been, I can feel this opening. And I have, some of the biggest learning that I've had has been in reviewing the pieces and really learning directly from myself and how I'm able to stand in my integrity or not, as the case may be, and to witness others who are speaking their truth and standing in their integrity so that I can learn those very soft skills that are needed to be able to hold space for the whole and help to be a part of the team that is looking at the future and wanting to build structures and social ways of connecting that can help us to come together and to really understand what we can do and who we need to be in that. So that's been my learning edge and what I feel the most grateful to have the opportunity to explore and express.
I can go next. Am I muted? Okay. So for me, this year has really been the challenge. It's been confronting in me in a way that I hadn't appreciated before, the hierarchy of patriarchy. So I'm really pleased that it actually came up in this discussion. And thank you, Monia, for right at the beginning talking about the importance of meeting as women. So you really started us off on this track. Yeah, I began the year by spending 6 months in a Sufi retreat, acting as the secretary. I knew that it was going to be a challenge because it's a very hierarchically place, but I didn't realize how much of a challenge it would be. it was as though I was throwing myself right into somewhere where I would have to that hierarchy head on. And it really allowed me to see what a huge effect this has had on my life. I don't think I'd realized it before, that being brought up in this patriarchy has really broken my heart in lots of ways and suppressed my ability to really express myself. So, and anger, a lot of anger that was, that was imprisoned down inside me, and which I'm becoming much more connected with, because there's a lot of energy that gets stuck there when you have to suppress these feelings. So yeah, for me, it's been of the way that I grew up and trying to find ways to release myself from the effects of that. And thank you very much for letting me be part of this discussion too. That's very much part of it.
All right, I'll continue. Because you mentioned anger, Anna. This year I used a mood graph I designed myself just to keep track of my moods and of what doesn't change, the awareness of being aware. And it took me a long way to get to my anger. And whenever I got to my anger, there was so much power and so much energy that I really snapped out of whatever just kept me down and made me miserable. And then after some time, I noticed anger isn't really the only thing that can get you going. And as you mentioned, Sufis, being a secretary with Sufis, you probably get, oh, I'll just explode right away. But anyway, Sufis. I have been trying to challenge the ego illusion. So without an ego, everything gets simple and easy for me. So that's the Buddhist way. And I notice it now with others much easier when they are in their egoic space. But I always go right into the trap again. So that's really, that was my challenge in 2017, and it will continue in 18. On the other hand, I am a very good organizer, and I see straight lines, I see energy lines of how things develop. So these are my powers. And those I'm going to nurture and to continue. And right away, I'm trying to just let somebody else organize the Integral Salon in Vienna. And I hope it will happen in summer 2018. And this would be very relieving, because actually the interior work takes so much power, Kraft, that sometimes it doesn't really get to the goals I want them to go there. Finally, we end up there, but not much with my doing. Things happen, and whatever happens, it fits. Maybe just my script, but it fits. That's yeah. The world as such. Whatever I know of the world is coming through the media, so I am taking a very close look at the media, who is telling me what, and luckily my husband is also very interested in that, so this really keeps us going, and I will keep a close eye on the media in 2018 as well. Thank you.
Gertraud, are you speaking? You must unmute yourself.
Okay. For me, this year, 2 babies have been born. One, my book, or our book, and it was really a birth-like experience. And the funny part is, when we finished last year, we had written the manuscript, but then the work only started out in June. And our grandson, Matthäus, is now 3 months old. He's August 26. And yeah, this is so joyful. It's like, I mean, how can I say that? I didn't make it. I couldn't. I mean, it was not my thing to do. But they both feel as I participated in what's emerging. So, and being proud of my daughter being such a great mom, and so there is something in me that participated or that contributed, but it was not me making it. So that was a big achievement, or a big joy. And I was elected as so-called lead link of our group, the appreciators. And in November, I was so occupied with other things, and more I grew into that position, or into that role of holding the purpose for our group, and being in touch with the other role holders, and to see how I can empower them. And there was one challenge, a big one, that one who had that role some years ago, or at the beginning, the 2 years of the beginning, he said, I don't see you as a lead link. And to stay in my power, not knowing how me being that role will emerge, because it has nothing to do, or it doesn't look any way the others had when they had the role. So I'm completely different, and to stay in that not knowing, that was really a task. And there's some big things going on. We did a constellation with our group, and so very big inner work with ourselves. That was, yeah, good and challenging. So yeah, I'm grateful for this year. This was, yeah, thank you. And it's so great to see you all. And yeah, this is like I know we meet again every month. So everybody does whatever they do, but then we meet again and have a deep conversation, and I really appreciate that. And I'm very thankful for all of you.
Thank you, all of you. Now, the last one, that's me. Very intense year this year. I think many of you know that I'm very interested in psychology. And then I came across Jordan Peterson and his teachings of psychology. And so much more about humans, how they are ticking, let's say. That was always my intent, to learn better. What's these humans? What are they doing, you know? And singing, it was not about singing, but about how it works and so on. And now with his teaching, I have learned so much, and also about the evil which is in the people's soul. And so I'm learning much more to discern about the things. And the other great thing also, towards thanks to him, I'm coming to understand our roots in Christianity, and because he is seeing it from a psychological perspective, and I begin to understand this. And I don't see it only as a bad patriarchy, or how you say it, but it's really amazing, amazing, amazing. And I really recommend to you. I was always, you know, religion, no. And since then, I really have gone big change in my appreciation of our culture. So this is one thing. And then the more, let's say, mundane thing is I have learned doing websites and doing all this stuff, and I have our non-profit is on, and I have got Google free advertising. So since about 4 weeks, I'm learning AdWords. Fortunately, I don't have to pay, because otherwise I would have lost already $10,000 or something, because I'm learning how to do that. There are some that people come and others not. I haven't advertised Women Matters yet, but I will do that. And so I hope we will find more people who can get inspired by what we are doing in the women's circle, but what we are also doing with Mark in the Normal Wisdom Factory, with all the topics like conscious aging and conversations that matter. And I'm really grateful for everybody who is coming as our guests or here as the stable group. So thank you. In many ways, I have reached and overreached my goals in learning and living what I'm learning. So thank you very much for being here, and also who is watching and who will watch later. Thank you. And I hope we could inspire you a little bit doing your own group or joining us, leaving your comments. And
a wonderful rest of the year.
Yes, and I say Happy Christmas, because in our culture, Christmas for me was always, as a child, a major thing. And so I hope that children of today can have these eyes and seeing the wonder of the candles and everything. So, yes, and Happy New Year, and we see you again next year. Okay.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.